This video is madness. Everything that could have possibly gone wrong went wrong. And I might be being pessimistic, but I'm not fucking joking. Everything went wrong. Yeah. You know, that happened for the dumbest reason too, because slab got too dry. And I knew that when I was making the last video. And I was like, you know what, it's fine. And I was like, oh, like, you don't need to use slip when you're joining leather hard and really moist clay. Like, it'll work out fine. This is what happens. And also, I just used water, which was like the dumbest idea, because that's why it got all like warped, because then it got super wet on the edges and it was still dry in the middle, so then it like warped as it dried and cracked, which is just perfect and awesome. But I just had to spiffy up the space a little bit because I was getting majorly bad vibes. Here's a little ASMR cleanup for you. Okay, so part of what we're doing today is I'm making a new wedging board, and I'm also going to make a new plaster bat for reclaim. So to start with the wedging board, I'm just cleaning everything off, getting everything relatively clean, and then I just have to take the old canvas off of this plywood and staple on some new different canvas that I bought, which sounds easy, but it wasn't. But I needed new canvas because this canvas wasn't like cotton, and it was like, I think it was like canvas drop cloth that I got at like lows. So every time I wedged or did anything, fibers came up into the clay. Yeah. Just so much mold. Which is how the last video started. So I think we're coming full circle here. When I color graded this video, it just looks like so green. Like that is some neon radioactive mold right there. And this took me so long just to take the canvas off. Like, it was such a to-do. I'm like, there's gotta be like a stapler remover around here somewhere. Like, I'm asking my dad, I'm like, do you have a stapler remover? Like, is it for like the industrial staplers? Because that's what I need. And then like, I just ended up ripping it all off with my hands because it's fucking canvas, like whatever. And then I just ended up throwing the whole thing away anyway because it's moldy. That's me literally pointing to it and showing my dad. I'm like, this is moldy. What am I supposed to do about this? So in true dad fashion, he had another piece of plywood that I could wrap canvas around. You could see it was a little warped, but it's gonna get wet and kind of end up being like malleable eventually. So I think it's fine. And the bow is gonna be on like the correct side so that like I'll be pushing down onto the bow when wedging or working on it, so it'll be fine. But look at this beautiful new canvas. It's so much nicer. I literally was like, am I rich? This stuff is nice. I've seen people do like plaster wedging boards. I mean, you can buy plaster wedging boards, but I had this type in college with like the canvas on it. So that's just what I know, and it's obviously like lighter and easier to move around and use because it's not heavy like plaster. So that's just what I use. All right, so this is my this is my current plaster bat that I use for reclaim. It looks horrific. Like, did not know that plaster could stain like that. It's literally so ugly. There's spiders living on it, hello. But I made this like the first week that I put this studio together. I never ever worked with plaster before. I literally did not know what I was doing whatsoever. And I made it in a cat litter box. And I feel like it shows. Like it's just unwell. So this is a new little bucket that I picked up from Walmart, I think, and this is going to be the mold for the new plaster bat. I watched a bunch of videos this time because obviously the first time I did it, I didn't know what I was doing, so I was like, let me educate myself. That was a mistake. There's a thing called mold release, and it's essentially lard. So I was like, okay, I'm literally just gonna, instead of picking up a $30 bucket of mold release, I'm just gonna use oil. Because it's the same thing. So I'm just oiling up the little thing, and then I'm gonna mix the plaster. And that's not like any random plaster, it's like ceramics plaster. It's for doing this and for making molds. I don't know the actual difference, but there is one. So the information that I looked up said that I should use a ratio of, I think it was 4 parts water, 5 parts plaster. And they specifically said to put the plaster in your mixing bowl first and then pour the water on top, which I thought was silly. And turns out I was right. It was silly. But I didn't realize until now, 2 weeks later, making this audio. But so I'm pouring the water in. I'm gonna give it a little mixeroo with my hand. My card was full. So the plaster sat in there with water on top for like 5 minutes, which if you've worked with plaster before, it dries so quick. So I was like running around like, oh my god, my SD card is full. Like, what am I supposed to do? I can't delete everything off of it right now. And also I knew it wasn't full. It was just like being glitchy. So my mom gives me a new SD card. I put it in my camera. I go back out as quick as possible. And that's what it looked like. And so I sat there for so long, crunching it around in my hands, trying to get it smooth. We're just gonna hope for the best. This was the best. Tapping my sorrows away, trying to get the 8 million air bubbles out of this chunky mess of plaster. I'm like, yeah, maybe if I just tap it out, it'll be fine. And then I said, fuck this. I let it sit for like 20 minutes and then I was like, this is an epic fail. Get out of my sight. And I was like, we're starting over. We're starting over right now. It's happening. We're getting rid of it. Look at all those air bubbles. Oh my god. Tragic. So this time I was like, okay, we're doing this again. Did I put the water on top again? Sure did. But I didn't re-oil the bucket, like the mold, because I was convinced that was the issue, other than the plaster sitting there for 800 years while it dried, without me stirring it. So I'm like stirring away. It's feeling good. Everything feels great. It's like a better consistency. I'm like, okay, this is perfect. This is fine. This is gonna work great. It's perfect. And when I pour it in, it looks so beautiful, and it looked the way that it did the very first ever time that I did it. So I was feeling literally so good about it. Getting all the little chunks out by smearing it against the walls, because this is hard to do with your hands, and you can see I'm doing it for so long that it's like thickening up a little bit, but I was like, whatever. Look at that pour. Gorgeous pour. Looks so good.
Nukes are a lie to keep the population in check, to scare us into submission. We don't have